The hearing of the three petitions relating to the October 26th repeat presidential election kicked off on Wednesday morning, with Chief Justice David Maraga leading his bench in making rulings on a number of applications considered on Tuesday during the pre-trial conference. In a unanimous decision, the 6 Supreme Court judges ordered IEBC to provide the petitioners Njonjo and Khalifa whole result declaration forms used in the repeat presidential election.
The second respondent is hereby ordered to grant access to all original Forms 34A, Forms 34B, and Form 34C to the petitioner's hearing in accordance with prayer number 14 in that application. The second respondent is also to avail a certified copy of the voter register to the petitioners at the cost of the latter. That means the petitioners, and this is in accord with prayer number 17.
In a ruling read by Justice Smokin Wanjala, the Supreme Court, however, declined to grant the petitioner the remaining orders, which included orders to compel IEBC to provide all information contained in the KIEMS kits used in the repeat presidential election.
The remaining prayers are hereby declined. The said prayers have been declined on the basis of very cogent grounds, which will be elaborated in a detailed version of this ruling to be issued by the court at a later date. Some of the prayers have been declined due to the sheer impracticability of their implementation, given the short time left for the determination of the petitions at hand. Others have been declined because they were not pleaded with sufficient particularity in the petition. Yet others were declined on grounds that they are couched in such general terms as to be no more than fishing expeditions.
And with that, the stage was set for lawyers representing the petitioners to argue their case seeking to compel IEBC to conduct fresh presidential election on grounds that the October 26th repeat poll was invalid, since no presidential candidate was subjected to fresh nominations and that the elections did not happen in all 291 constituencies as required by law.
A national election for the president has to take place in all the constituencies. 290, now we have 291 because of the diaspora. So is it a presidential election under Article 138(2) if it's not taken place in all the 290 constituencies?
First and second respondent would have done a very simple thing. Put up a gazette notice on the same day, specify the day for nominations, and make sure that the date of nomination is at least 21 days before the date of the poll. In his end, my Lord, the first and second respondents, in our view, went into a fishing expedition of other provisions and other authorities outside the Constitution and election laws.
The petitioners further argued that the repeat presidential election was marred with violence, intimidation, and lack of transparency by the electoral body, hence should be nullified.
By confirming himself that there was violence, the principle under Article 81E was not met. And where that principle is not met, we do not have a valid election, even without looking at any other principle.
Why was this turnout affected? The simple answer you might get is because of violence and intimidation. But that doesn't tell the whole story. The whole story is that there was lack of trust on IEBC. Why? Because in areas even where there was no violence or there is no evidence of violence, the turnout was still very low.
I'm asking that because if you have done some reading outside the field of law and gone into the politics of elections, you'll find that if you hold a series of elections, one after the other, the voters get less and less and less. It is called voter fatigue. And there's nothing you can do about it, whether in America, whether in England, wherever. That one has been proved. So you need to address that.
However, IEBC, through lawyers Waweru Gatonye and Mwangi Karuri, demonstrated before the court why the electoral body conducted the fresh presidential election under strict conformity of the Constitution as ordered by the Supreme Court.
Nobody has approached any of our courts complaining that he or she wanted to stand for the presidential elections on the 26th of October and was denied the opportunity to do so.
High Court did decide that all the candidates that participated in the 8th of August election were entitled to participate in the fresh presidential election. And so, my lord, the scenario envisaged by that candidate where there would only be 2 candidates was removed immediately the judgment of the High Court was rendered. So that the argument that the withdrawal then meant that the consequence would be that there would be a new election and so on did not exist. Why? Because that scenario covered under the Raila 2013 decision had been removed by the decision of Justice Mativo.
They argue that the commission should not be blamed as it acted within the law to postpone elections in regions that were perceived hostile to its officers.
You are told today in the morning that the IEBC or the commission cancelled the elections. It did not. It postponed the elections until such time as the situation would permit the conduct of the election in a peaceful environment as provided for under Article 81 of the Constitution. Now, my lord, the interesting thing about this is that the criticism against the commission is that it conducted elections in an environment where there was violence and breach of peace. The reality, my lord, is that the commission had postponed the election for that very purpose, to ensure that there was protection of life and property. Because if it had insisted on conducting those elections in the environment explained by the returning officers and as explained by the security agents, it would be putting the lives of the residents of that area at risk and also the lives of the election officials.
The Supreme Court judges have until Monday next week to hear and make a determination on the petitions challenging the win of President Uhuru Kenyatta in the October 26th repeat poll. Ben Chumba reporting for Channel 1 News Hour.